How's it going, everybody? Just a quick thank you to Chris Cantu and David Binks, who've recently joined Patreon, among many others who I'm pretty sure I've already thanked. Today's lesson is going to be addressing chords. So if you've been following the theories stuff, this is pretty much where I think we're up to. We've covered major scales, we've covered minor scales, and the relationships between them, and how they're pretty much the same thing, just from various points of the same note family. Today what we're going to do is start to look at the ingredients of chords, where they come from, and how they relate to that major scale. You're going to see very quickly everything relates back to the major scale, or can certainly be referenced against it. So let me get that camera nice and close to the fretboard, and I'll walk you through it. Okay, so you may remember from one of the first lessons I discussed the tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone scale that we pretty much use as our reference point. So in the key of C, okay, tone being 2 frets, semitone being 1 fret. So if you remember that I explained that, you know, we move up in those steps, and that gives us our major scale. When we do that in any key, it doesn't matter whether it's sharps, flats, whatever, we call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to 1. So just to quickly go through those notes: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now here's where this gets interesting very, very quickly. So a chord is made up of notes that are stacked together from a degree. Okay, in this case, we're going to obviously start with the first degree being C, and then we'd be going to the third, which would be the E. Then we'd be going to the fifth, which is the G. Okay, and that forms our basic triad, what we call our basic triad. So that's a C major chord: C, E, and G. But how do we play them all at the same time? Well, there's a C chord. Okay, now that's pretty straightforward. Just to add to that, if we go 1, 3, 5, and 7, we've got a C major 7. So, okay, probably not super useful for you unless you're playing jazz and all those kinds of things. It's a very sickly sweet chord, that one, but it does have its purposes even over darker stuff, which something we'll get into later. Now, that's pretty straightforward. We've just made a major 7 chord off C in the key of C. That makes sense, right? Okay, so if we go to the D, what we have to do here, if we're going to create a chord that is within that scale, the exact same process, but remember we're using the notes from the key of C. So keep in mind that we also learnt the notes. We learnt the same notes going across like that. When I did this, I just reached the same notes that I played out of here, going across the neck, okay, but using the open string. So all this stuff is in those major lessons. If that interests you and you don't quite understand it, it's definitely worth going through them. And I'll make a playlist of all of those lessons in order. I'll endeavor to do that shortly. Okay, so from D, we're actually going to be using D. Okay, our next note is actually going to be an F. Okay, because remember, we're sticking with the key of C. So tone, so C, D, E, F. So if we start from D, we're going to build our next chord in the key of C. A D, an F, and an A. Okay, so we're skipping the G, we're going to the A. And there's our D minor chord. Okay, so if we play that, that looks like this. Okay, if I play that across the neck instead of... I obviously can't play all those notes on the same string. Okay. Now, as a point of interest, if we were playing D major, okay, we'd require a tone to have what we call a major third, okay, or just a third, the 3. 1, 2, 3. But because we're actually only going a semitone from at this point, we're going tone, semitone, the relationship with D is what we would call a minor third, and that's the darker sound, okay? So that's a flat third. The note there is an F natural, okay? But we still call it a flat third when we're referring to the note D. So if I said, what makes a D minor, I would say the 1, the flat 3, and the 5th note, okay? Because the A even if we did the major scale from D, tone, tone, semitone, tone, it's still just a regular A, okay? So by building a D chord in the rules of C, we're actually going to get a D minor chord. Play that. Okay, now using that theory, when we build a chord from E, we end up with exactly the same result. So from E, remember we're going to pull our notes from C, so E, G, B. The fifth is fine, okay, but that G, I can tell you for two reasons, that's a flat third. One, we would normally move 2 semitones to get to our third, and two, I also happen to know the key of E has a G sharp. So this is why learning your cycle of fifths can be really valuable, because you just look at the notes and you know what it needs. But either way, you need a combination of everything to be able to utilize this stuff fluently. So this is a great starting point. So we've got E, G, B. Of course, we play it across. It looks exactly the same. This is the beauty of the guitar. Things can be moved around and just look the same. So we've got C, D minor, E minor. We've got F major 7 is next, okay? So in the key of F, fortunately, when we play from F, okay, F, A, C, that would fit even if we were playing in F major. In the key of C, we can use those same notes. So if we were playing in F major scale, however, you'd end up with a B flat, because that's tone, tone, semitone. There's the B flat. Okay, but as a chord itself, we don't use the 4. We're using the 1, the 3, and the 5. And we're even using, if we want to go as far as the next note, skip the D, go to the E, F major 7. So you can see C and F major are very friendly scales. They're very similar. Okay, so at this point we've got C major, D minor, E minor, F major. All right, I'm going to move this along now. Next is G major. Okay, for the exact same reasons. If we get the extra note here in the scale, so we'll go, let's do it from here. G, skip A, go to B, skip C, go to D, skip E, go to F. Now in the key of G, we need F sharp, but we're in C right now, so we're going to take the F as our 7th degree. So 1, 3, 5, 7. That is a dominant 7 chord. That's where our, you know, in the blues and everything, that's where that comes from. So our 5th chord is quite unique, because it's the only chord that you will see a major third, okay, and a flattened 7. So whenever you play your 5th chord, okay, it will tell your brain, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, it will actually tell your brain, hey, this is the 5th degree right now, which means you'll get a feel for what the 1st degree is. So what I mean by that is, if we play G7, it resolves very fluently, very nicely to the C, okay, because it belongs to the C. D minor, E minor, F major 7, they can belong to, let's see, I guess they could belong to 3 different keys. 2 different keys, definitely, hang on, I need to think about that, but multiple keys, I should say. So all the other chords can belong to more than 1 key, but the dominant 7 will only naturally belong to 1 key. And that is why the 5 chord, for example, in a blues, you play that 5 chord at the end to take you straight back to the root, okay? Because your brain kind of knows, when I'm playing a G7, you can really hear that belongs to C. If I play an A7, you can hear that it belongs to the key of D, etc., etc. The 5th degree builds a unique chord to that key. All right, so let's go up to the A. So we've got, okay, I could add the 7. Okay, so I've got, well, that's the G dominant 7. Then A minor, A, C, and E. This is our relative minor, so it figures we're going to get a minor chord. All right. Then we're going to get a B half diminished. So what this means is, from B, the regular key of B would have B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. In the key of C, we get B, D natural. Remember, we've got to use all natural notes. F. Now, this is the only chord you will see that the 5th has been smashed down one. Okay, all the rest, they're actually their regular 5, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but pulled back 1. This is the only chord that happens with. This chord is also unique to the key of C, okay, and it's very much a very similar chord to that dominant, that G7 anyway. It very much shares the same notes. So, and that chord can be used, but it's a bit of a long story. So let's just play through that whole that scale now. Okay, I like to add the 7, or you could just drop the 5th note, put the 7 there on the 10th fret. Okay, then we've got the A minor, and then we've got the B half diminished, which is 14th fret, 12th fret, and 10th fret, and then we're back to C. Okay, that's the theory, and that is how we get all those chords in the key of C. So if you're trying to write a song, you know, it doesn't matter what key you use, it's always going to be this order. First chord's a major chord, next degree is a minor chord, next degree is a minor chord. The 4th is a major, the 5th is a major or a dominant 7. The 6th is a minor, and the 7th degree, again, this is based off the major scale, a tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. That 7th degree is a half diminished, okay? That's where our chords come from. That's why certain chords work. It doesn't mean you can't use any other chords. I wanna put that up now. Doesn't mean you can't use other chords. You can, but you are stepping outside the key, okay? And this stuff can be really useful when you want to get down to the nitty-gritty, work out what you're playing, and come up with some interesting things to fit inside it. So I'll expand on this. I think what we'll do next lesson is we'll do just regular guitar voicings of these chord scales, and I'll show how to play them in a few different keys, and also from a root 6 and a root 5 perspective, as in starting on the 6th string, so maybe the key of G, starting on the 6th string might be key of C, which you could then move to key of D. It wouldn't really matter. And then what we can do is maybe start looking at the various voicings and maybe some of the extensions. So that's what's coming next, amongst a whole lot of other things. But please give me some feedback. Let me know what you want next, and of course, jump on the Patreon. I'm going to put up the chord scale in not notated form, like box shaped form, down a chart, so you can just see it on paper. Thanks for watching. Check out the Patreon. Like, subscribe, share, do all those things. It really helps. See you later.